This is Cuda Chronicles with the Burlington Junior Barracudas and your host, Jared Baptiste. How was this morning?
It was good. It was fun.
I liked it.
Yeah, I like Tijana tripping Hayden.
I didn't mean to trip Hayden. Hayden stepped on my stick and I felt bad, but...
I was just about to say, nobody fell, right? No. Tiana's the reason somebody fell.
I'm sorry.
I think a lot of us forgot how to shoot.
Yeah.
Hayden told me to check the tape and everything. What do you mean? Well, specifically, Christina forgot how to shoot.
Yeah, that was fun.
Sorry to call you out, Walks, but
yeah,
I had to ask if she was okay. Well, because like that's what the first time a lot of us have been on the ice together in how long?
A long time.
2 months, maybe.
Right, like at least before Christmas, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you missed it though. I totally ate it too. In the third session.
Yeah.
And I was filming too. Yeah. So I was going backwards and totally just full Charlie Brown off a.
I was scared to skate backwards. Like I don't.
Yeah. No, those 2-on-1s.
Those 2-on-1s. I was so scared. I was gonna like toe pick or something.
I was scared. Jamie didn't even.
Yeah. Jamie didn't even skate backwards.
Really?
Yeah, they were doing continuous 1-on-1s.
Oh yeah.
And she just went forward.
Well, she'd come back and then just like stop, and Maddie would just blow by her, and Jamie's like, "I don't want to skate backwards."
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of scary just because of the big cracks.
Yeah,
there's a couple. There was a couple of big ones. That's how I fell, and like, I was recording too, but I managed to keep the camera like facing out. I'm pretty sure you don't see a full like
I hope
eye view.
Camera.
But it's just like there's gonna be a huge wobble, and then it's gonna be a nice little ice view.
Yeah.
With probably my feet in it. But yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
That. But anyways, we have started. I like to do this where I just start right away. So Cuda Chronicles episode 2. This is how we're going to do it for the rest of the time. I had to make sure that everybody was all in it for episode 1 because it's the first one. But we had our whole meeting last night. We got everything sorted out, so we're all good to go. This morning we did a whole Outdoor Rink film session with socially distanced groups. So that'll be fun. We'll be keeping an eye out for all that kind of stuff. And B-roll for the upcoming episode, which would feature the rookies for Rise of the Cuda, which would be a lot of fun. But we also have, of course, our first special guest, the future head coach of our 2 co-hosts today, Olivia Muhn and Tijana Miskovic. And it's the head coach of Yale University, which is where both today live, and Tijana will be headed off to in the fall. You are both officially headed there, right? Because I know there's some folks that are sticking around or not, depending on all the various exceptions that the NCAA and U Sports have handed out, which I'm sure we'll talk about with head coach Mark Bolding in a few moments. But just as we wait for him to join us, there's a couple of stories that I wanted to cover. And the first one is simply because it's probably the biggest one in hockey right now. And we won't go into all the details about it, because if you don't know by now, then you got to go and read up on it yourself. And it's not really we don't really need to comment on it anymore, but it's about the Arizona Coyotes and everything that's going on with them. And it's more like, what's next for them, right? I mean, this ownership group is obviously toxic. And I mean, it's I'm sure that's difficult to experience as a player. I don't know if either of you have ever experienced something like that, where there's like higher ups that are toxic. I think the system in Burlington is pretty good, and you've been in it for a long time. So like, what do either of you think should be next for the Arizona Coyotes, or do you even have an opinion on the Arizona Coyotes?
Personally, I don't know a ton about the whole situation, so formating and formulating an opinion wouldn't necessarily be out of like um what's it called? Decisive information or real information. It would just kind of be off what I've heard about it.
That's
And
okay.
that would just be that they need new ownership. It's yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, like me too. Like I'm not really familiar with their organization. Like from what I've heard, obviously it sounds like it's a very toxic workforce and that needs to be sorted out, but I don't really have my own opinion on it and I can't really speak for the players either because I have never experienced being a part of a toxic organization or anything of that sort, but so I can't really speak to how the players are dealing with it, but yeah, for sure there seems to be a lot of issues going on and yeah, there just needs to be some communication and possibly new ownership going on. But yeah, can't really form an opinion on it too much.
Yeah. I think for both T and I, we've always had like great coaching, always kind of a good base to an organization to support us. So we've never really had to experience or deal with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And not to pump our own tires, but I mean, Burlington's, specifically this group has really come through. I think a very strong rooted organization, and I think we have to credit the Burlington Girls Hockey Association as well, who's built this group up to become what it is today, on top of those individuals who've made it so. And yeah, as far as Arizona goes, for me, I mean, I've read up on everything and I've discussed it with various other people as well. And I've always had the opinion, I mean, Arizona doesn't have very many fans. I don't really understand why hockey, they're trying to make it work in the desert. There's evidence that it may work at some point in the future, but they need, they need stable leadership and ownership, and they've never had that. And it's really unfortunate because they've really never been a relevant organization for most of their existence. I mean, they've made the playoffs 3 times in your lifetimes. Like,
Yeah.
the Leafs have made the playoffs more than that. And we'll talk about them a little bit later, and a couple other topics as well we'll come back with after we bring Mark on, which will be in a few minutes. But today as well, yesterday and today, we did our own outdoor thing, and so did the NHL. They had their Lake Tahoe games, and yesterday, I feel like actually today we may have experienced a bit of what was going on yesterday, minus the melting of the ice.
Yeah.
It was getting a little unsafe yesterday on by Lake Tahoe, and they had to delay the game. I tuned in for the last 15 minutes of the hour-long first intermission. And apparently they forgot to factor in the sun.
Yeah.
I think a relocation or somewhere else might have been more beneficial, but I don't know how they came to the conclusion that would have been a good place to have the games. But yeah, they probably should have factored in that before they decided that's where they were going to play the games.
Yeah. Like you see the highlights and it's just covered in water. Like they try to move the puck and they can barely pass it.
You had guys tripping and falling like head first into the boards. I think it was Ryan Reeves. There's that shot of him approaching the corner from the corner, and he just
Probably not safe.
No,
super unsafe. We were probably on the borders of that, but no boards for us to trip and fall into, thankfully.
Only a few snowbanks.
Yeah.
At least those are soft, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't have to worry about that. But they did postpone. They did restart at midnight last night. And I think they've decided that playing at night is better, or at least late afternoon, because today's game between Boston and Philadelphia was supposed to have started an hour ago. But it's not starting until 7:30 p.m. Eastern time now.
Yeah.
So they've pushed it back, and I think they've figured it out. But it was a good game. it ended up being a decent game between Colorado and Vegas. And I feel like that's why they decided to have it in Nevada.
Yeah.
Vegas is new. I think it was a home game for Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. So, just trying to grow it a little bit that way. But I mean, you could have really had anyone anywhere because there were no fans to go to it anyways, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting. I think they should do one in Lake Louise next year or something like that. That would be awesome. But we've just seen that head coach Mark Boulding is with us. So Mark is the head coach of the Yale University women's ice hockey team, and he joined up in April 2019. So he's a little bit newer to the position per se, but he's a 12-year veteran of coaching in the NCAA. And there he is now. Mark, thank you for taking the time today to join us this afternoon. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks. Thanks for having me. Sorry for the delay getting on.
No problem. We've just been chatting about Lake Tahoe actually, and how the NHL forgot to factor in the sun in Nevada.
Yeah. So I grew up in the West, and a warm day in the sun. It's, even though it feels cold, it definitely will do some melting. So glad they got the game in yesterday. Hopefully today pulls off too.
And we were also talking as well. We actually had our own outdoor stuff this morning, and it was a little colder for us, which was good.
Was it? Jeez.
Yeah, it was.
Gotta play though.
8.
What's that?
It was like -8 or something like that today.
Oh boy.
So it wasn't too bad. But let's jump right into it. I'll start off with the first question, then I'll turn it over to the girls, because of course they're going to become your players.
I know.
In a few short months.
A couple of them I recognize. That's awesome. Good to see you guys.
So like I was introing, you started with Yale, a little bit more recently in April 2019, but you spent a very long time at Norwich. You played and coached there for a long time. So I wonder what influenced your decision to, I guess, almost graduate to Yale after building such a legacy at Norwich.
Yeah, Norwich is a special part. I mean, it goes way back to when I finished playing junior hockey. I just really didn't know where I was going to go and what my plan was. I knew I was going to go to university, and kind of ended up being the option that I selected. I've been to New England a few times and Boston once, never to Vermont until I got dropped off there for college, and had a great experience, really enjoyed my time there as a player, and then was able to coach on the men's side prior to getting an opportunity to work on the women's side and start the program. But, I guess I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. I've been at Norwich for such a long time as a student, and then, an employee, and as much as I loved it and really could have probably rode the career out and retired there. We love Vermont and everything that's associated with the school, but I just couldn't pass it up. I mean, the opportunity to work for Yale and try and, ultimately for me as a coach to coach at the highest level, which is Division I for us. And I just had to do it. So once my wife's been fantastic with the support and the kids trying to navigate. They're a little bit older now, of course, so that helped. But, I looked at some other opportunities a few years earlier and just couldn't pass it up. Really excited about the opportunity to work at one of the best schools in the country, and just get a chance to in theory coach the best student athletes that we can possibly attract at a place like Yale.
Go ahead, Liv.
Okay, sorry. So obviously due to COVID this year, it's been kind of a crazy year, kind of a crazy ride. How would you say that the Ivy League cancellation has affected both you and the team?
Yeah, I mean, really hit us quickly. Fortunately, I guess at the end of last season, we had finished our year. We were done in playoffs. Our men actually were not finished, so that was a challenge. And once it sort of became real that sports were being canceled at the highest levels, I guess it kind of made sense that we wouldn't be playing. And it was a challenge. I mean, there was a little bit of a clean break going home for summer and getting through school for our students. Graduation didn't happen, and you guys know how impactful it is not to be around your friends. But I really felt for the seniors in particular who couldn't have that graduation. So I mean, I don't know. We were all kind of waiting to see what would happen. There's a lot of science, a lot of knowledge, I would say, in the Ivy Leagues for what was going on. Didn't make it any easier. Everybody wanted to play. So, making sure our equipment guy would order masks within the masks and have the right bubble orders to go. And we just, maybe thought we would play. But I think as the summer kind of got going a little bit further, it was tough, but I give our players credit and really, all the student athletes, once they realize, I don't think anybody thought it was going to happen in the fall. So you started to see students take leave of absence and trying to change their academic path. So it was, probably more than anything, it's taken a toll. It's taken a toll on us as coaches. We couldn't, all of a sudden, boom, no recruiting, no interactions with future players, no camps that we normally do and run around to and have fun watching players and having that camaraderie with other coaches. It was tough. And, again, not being connected with our players other than Zooms and, a few phone calls and text messages. So I think once the fall hit and the reality really set in, we're not together. It was tough. And I think the mental challenge of where everybody's at is still kind of unknown. I'm not sure how they're all doing. I hope they're doing fine, but you can only be resilient for so long before you just want to do what you do. And that's, at the age of our student athletes, they want to study, they want to be together, and they want to play hockey. So, the bonus time now, having a family myself and being around my close pod of kids, that's been a blessing. But hopefully they felt that same way with their families. But at the end of the day, they all wanted to be around. So tough, mentally challenged year for sure.
Yeah, like I know you mentioned about like the mental health and everything. So is there anything in particular that you are doing to keep a positive atmosphere on the team as you look forward to the upcoming season?
Yeah, I think, we've been connecting with some Zooms. To be honest, we've actually given them a lot of space. And I know, where they're at. They're pretty close to each other. Maybe the hardest part, we had some first years that were supposed to come in the fall and they ended up deferring. So, but even they kind of clicked together, and they actually, 3 of them got together and did some workouts and time in each other's homes to study. So, I think it's just more of trusting that they're going to do some of that on their own. Yale, and there's been so much that's been put out, I think, in sports performance on mental health. So I know our players and many of the students have taken advantage of some of the Zooms that have talked about mental health and just being together and things like that. So there's definitely going to be more of that, and we'll probably be tighter when we all finally get back to campus. But, to be honest, it's just not really encroaching on their time, and check-ins as much as we could with them. But, I've learned that we can't really direct them in this path. It's their mindset. Everybody's going to handle it a little bit differently. Everybody's got a different family background too. So, I think that's what you kind of have to do. You have to sort of pull back. But once we're together, it's something that certainly is now heightened for us to talk about the mental health, and not just when you're playing or when you're not, or when you're having a tough day in school, but how are you doing in the bigger picture? Because it's going to be, we hope everything resumes back to normal, but it will be a challenge, and but something we have to face. So we're definitely going to have to be more prepared and have more conversations about how we're really doing mentally when we get back together.
Since coming to Yale, it seems like the program's changed quite a bit. What systems or philosophies have you implemented that have contributed to the success of the program?
Yeah, I mean, I think, team cohesion is something that I've always believed in. And, if I look at the bigger picture of college hockey, you're not going to have success unless you're working together. And I'm not sure if we implemented anything different than, what the other staffs have in the past, tried to bring in energy, just sometimes a new atmosphere in any team is welcomed. You just get a chance to play without any barriers per se. But obviously we have systems and the teams we play against have systems, but I think just a fresh look, if anything. Sometimes when you change your laundry, feels good, it feels great, and you can put on the old pair of sweatpants, but sometimes you just need to chuck them away and start fresh. And I think that's what we did. It's a great conference. It's a great division, and Division I hockey on the women's side, in U Sports, of course, just so much talent. There's so many skilled players that, without that team buy-in, team success doesn't happen. So, baby steps in year one, and hopefully we can continue. But I think from a philosophy standpoint, it's, build on trust, work together. And, we've got a lot of learning to do, I think, as a staff about the program and just the history of it. And but I think college players are driven; they want to win, and getting players to elevate to the college level, university level, is just one step. Now, what can you do with them? So we're excited to see what we can do and how we can change it. But now we got to keep up. I think as coaches in his college game, you got to keep up to theirs and their, because they're coming in with some pretty strong talent. So there's the tactical, of course, and then really the mental team side of it. So I think the teams that have success are the ones that can master teamwork and cohesion.
You talked about some of those challenges just there about, at the coaching at the D1 level. What was the transition like from D3 to D1 from a coaching perspective?
Yeah, I think, probably more flat out natural ability, more skill set. Some of the players that I've observed at the Division I level, when I've seen them play live, a little bit bigger, stronger, potentially faster. Although I will say that, I was pretty spoiled. I had some great programs at Norwich, and really enjoyed Division III hockey. It's unbelievable how talented it is, and the D3 level is. And even selfishly as a guy, I didn't quite have what it took to make it to Division I on the men's side, but I felt pretty proud to play D3, and it's really an unbelievable brand of hockey on the guys' side too. So we didn't coach it any differently, but just some higher end. I mean, when you're going to go against, top kids in all the nations that are trying to get to that level, you're going to see that talent. So just trying to coach really against, again, the best players you can, and how do you defend against, the top players that are playing women's college hockey. So it's made it fun, but, we were as prepared as we could be back, when we were coaching Division III, and my staffs all coach Division III. So it's kind of fun to know that at the end of the day, we're just coaching players, and we just want to be the best we can.
So what are you looking to see from new players joining your program?
Yeah, I think, any coach is going to want to see energy, excitement, enthusiasm. Every time you have an opportunity to bring in a class of players, the calendar flips, you really look forward to that. What is spring going to mean when you plant the flowers, and what's going to come up? And you always want to make sure that the new players have, their opportunity to be themselves and to kind of grow, because in a blink, they're now your older players. Blink of an eye, they're your older players. So you want to give them some space to learn, grow. They're going to certainly make mistakes, but I think the high energy and the enthusiasm are what you always want to tap with your younger players, and give them opportunities and show them how valuable a team is. I mean, if you look at the NHL now, many teams have young captains, young leaders, and it's not by, it's not a slight to the older 30-year-old player that's played a 12-year career. It's the fact that some of these young players are just so amazingly talented, and they've got it. So, I think that's always the challenge sometimes, having young players not feel like they have to hold back, and just because they don't want to, they don't want to go too hard and disappoint, upset the older players. To the contrary, we need our better players to come from our better efforts from the younger players, so that they can adapt quicker and just get comfortable. So but certainly, I go back to the energy and the enthusiasm. I've coached long enough that every 5 years, it's not only a different brand of athlete that's walking in the door, they're just different. Social media is different for them. They're studying differently. They're probably doing many of the same things at home, but we want them to be valued really when they come in.
You mentioned social media, and that just kind of caught my eye, because as an organization, I know the Burlington Barracudas have kind of encouraged their girls to, create almost a brand for themselves on social media if they'd like. Is there any kind of value to that you see as a coach at the university college level?
Yeah, I think it shows two things. They're certainly staying current and staying engaged and working together. It's all a teamwork, right? It doesn't matter what you're putting out and you're producing. So if your brand happens to be, Burlington, and you guys do a wonderful job at it. But that's not done with just one or two people. There's really, everybody's pulling on the rope at times. And sometimes, if you're gonna go down that path, there certainly is value, because again, it's a shared experience. If you're gonna do something right and you're gonna put it out there, that's got the team brand behind it, the team orientation, then you're really gonna need everybody to be involved and share ideas. So I think that's the biggest positive of it. From my perspective, as I kind of look around and see what junior hockey teams are doing, and even the younger teams that are putting stuff out, minor hockey associations, sell the brand that you are. But if you're going to do it right, it probably takes more than one or two people to do it. So I think it just spears teamwork and camaraderie, and but that's the way it's going to be in the team setting at the university level, and it's going to be that way in the business setting beyond, and the real world, when you have to work together to actually get something accomplished. So I think programs that do a nice job at it, it shows, and it certainly is. I think it's a good reflection on the group.
I know T and I have kind of already been through it, but for the other players listening in, what's your recruitment process like?
Yeah, I mean, it's, thankfully the NCAA had made some rule changes, which now doesn't allow coaches to interact with student athletes until they're basically June 15th of their grade 10 year. So I think that's a really positive thing overall. And at the Division III level where I was before, we kind of always had that respect time, because we knew a ninth grader, 10th, barely a 10th grader would really have any idea where they wanted to go. Everybody wants to, maybe go to those teams that are in the Final Four every year. And, you get to run around to college campuses and university campuses all over and get a sweatshirt, get a hockey something or other. And you feel like, oh my gosh, I could see myself playing there. So you got to have mentors growing up. And I think a lot of players that we recruit have just found a way, something has sparked their interest in a program or programs. And, they're kind of keen on it. So I don't think that's going to go away. I think you're going to see people that we actually end up recruiting that have shown some really positive interest as they were younger. But the younger player is really now has to, especially if they're extremely talented, they have to be patient. They have to learn the process, and they have to take their time as they go through it. Because without that true recruitment going on at the 8th and 9th grade that used to happen, now you've got to be patient. So I mean, my process is obviously, number one, evaluate talent, find programs that are going to provide good structure and solid skill set as they get ready to hit university. we recruit families a lot of times. You got to find the right families. If you have the wrong families, not that the parents play for you by any means, but eventually you're going to see, likely out of the student athlete that you do have, a lot of characteristics that are going to come from the home life. So those are always things, but sometimes it's, families are very different too. We know that they're involved, and there's some families that literally drop their kid off at the rink and pat them on the back and say, "Hey, how'd you do?" And 2 miles down the road, they're not even talking about hockey anymore. So obviously talent, and then depending on the conference you're in, we're certainly looking for upper academics. But many of the players that I've come across have strong academics. So again, you don't want to judge a book by its cover when they're too young. There's a lot of pages left to read before they get out of grade 12.
So I know you mentioned like the steps that you go through for your recruiting process, but is there anything in particular that a player has that really stands out to you when you are recruiting them?
I'd say, just compete level. I mean, that desire to compete, to win battles. I mean, again, we're watching more of that, once they hit high school. Then if you don't have it, that's okay, but you certainly want to get it as quick as you can, because there's too many players that will stand out, and most of it's because their compete level and their energy. I mean, you guys play in a fantastic league, probably one of the best in the nation, or in Canada, North America, to say the least. Older players, talent, but without the compete level, it doesn't really matter, and it won't translate. I've seen lots of talented guys and ladies play the game, but if they don't have the compete level, it's tough to manufacture that. So that's one thing. And I think teamwork, some kids are very, very skilled, very opportunistic. They make things happen, but again, without that teamwork piece, you don't know how much time you have to drive that into a player's head. So I think being a good teammate is one of the other most critical things, because again, we're probably, when we go to those tournaments, Stony Creek or wherever we're watching, there's all the coaches are there from Canadian universities, US universities, so we're all watching the same kids. So the kids that jump off the page have to have that combination of talent and compete level.
I just want to jump in quick with another question. You mentioned the Stony Creek tournament. Obviously, that's a staple on our schedule every year. But I'm curious as to how regularly you personally are traveling to games versus maybe getting scouting feedback or video from teams.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I mean, we have, prior to our seasons, every program is going to do it a little bit differently. Of course, I think as a head coach, it's great to get on the road and see players play, because you got to trust your assistants and the people that help you. But feedback only goes so far. Video only goes so far. I like to be, standing on the glass and watching games, or being that guy in the corner to kind of catch the bird's eye view of as many games as we can. So it's certainly fun to recruit too. That's where you see everything. You watch players coming in the rink, you can kind of tell how much fun they're having, and that's what it's all about, really, to see them play at that level. So back to those tournaments are just so important to see live. Obviously, this past year plus now has been we're really talking about video. So I think the more clips, the more video, as Live Barn and all the other bird's eye views. I mean, I can't believe rinks haven't put more of an emphasis into getting better angles and better shots. I mean, we can do anything with computers, but we don't seem to want to get enough good angles into a camera. I mean, if I'm a goalie or a defenseman, I'd want to have one in my D zone all the time so my coaches could watch that. And then on the flip side, if I'm a forward, I can't see 200 feet down the ice and watch the subtleties of video. So hopefully what we've learned from this in minor hockey and USA hockey, for heaven's sakes, invest in a bunch of cameras at these rinks so that coaches can watch all the little things. Practice videos been fun to get. We've seen a lot of practice video coming back, and it is important to see what happens. And so I think that will help us probably more so down the road. And we don't know the financial impacts of recruiting at the college level, at the university level. There's a lot of programs, just we're gonna have to manage our time too. So when a head coach or a staff's able to get up and watch a player and a team play, we want their best out of them. But in the meantime, it's just reps. I know no different if you're going to scout for the central, get your list ready for the draft. You got to see players play, and you got to have some homework done on them, because otherwise you're just kind of chancing what you're doing.
In regards to Soraya Tinker, how has being a part of her story impacted you?
I mean, man, when I first met her, I knew she was a talented defenseman. I watched her play at the PWHL level. I knew who she was. Then to coach her, we're a little lean in numbers last year, so she got a lot of ice time. She was very talented, but what an eye opener, I think, now, with all the social justice involvement that's going on and conversations. So, looking back to everything that happened, especially in the US, it's been very challenging, of course, with Black Lives Matter and all the real issues that have really just hit us in the face to wake us up. And I'm not sure we were awake. I'm not sure I was awake, even coaching her right out of the gates last year. So, but what I'm always amazed at now is as she's involved in more things and getting a little more time to kind of talk about her messages, there's just a lot of empowerment and a lot of positivity coming from her, even as she tells some of her stories and her message, which isn't all positive by any means, as to how she grew up playing, and even at our school and other places. So I think we're learning, and she's certainly empowering a lot of people. So as a young adult, sky's the limit for Soraya. But I think we're in the hockey community going to have to take the black and brown student athlete a little more, not a little more seriously, but really listen. And there's a lot of diversity in our team, but you haven't lived it until you've actually heard some of the stories and seen it. So she's woken us up, and I think she's also empowered us at the same time. So it's kind of a slap in the face to say, wow, this is what has gone on. And then probably the biggest takeaway is let's get on her back, and let's help elevate her and make her story and her time more valuable.
And with her message that she's getting out, and the message that women's hockey in general is putting out there with the work of the PWHPA and everything like that as well, do you see a shift coming in hockey culture as a whole, hopefully sooner than later?
Yeah, I think so. More black and brown and Asian minority players playing the game. Doesn't really matter where the player comes from. As we all know, it's irrelevant to how far they can go. But I do think there's going to be a shift, and there's a mindset, and hopefully it's going to happen at a younger level, where parents have to take the lead, coaches have to take the lead. If you're in a dressing room with 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds, and that's where it's going to start, where teammates are going to protect each other and stand up for each other, and not let the one donkey on the other team make a bunch of smart comments, or even their own teammates when they're just, I'm just goofing around. But those things sting, comments sting, and you got to be sensitive to that. And I certainly haven't been perfect. And if you think about I think more respect, referees, all the people that are involved in being part of the game, I think we've got an opportunity to kind of wake up and make some positive changes. So, and hockey is for everybody. It's a big world out there, and there's a lot of a lot of population that have never seen the sport, and man, they would love to be a part of it. So I hope there's a culture shift, and I think there is. I think what I'm seeing so far is very positive out of, the NHL level all the way down, and youth hockey, minor hockey in Canada and the US. I'm excited to see what changes there are, but we're all responsible. If we're involved in this game, we're involved in trying to be the best at handling social justice. So that's a big challenge for anybody that's associated with the game.
As a very experienced coach, what would you say has been your biggest achievement?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably just, I think, continuing to connect with my players. I mean, I've have an opportunity to have some success personally, but just the memories of coaching for a long time, making it a career and making it something that wasn't, I've had an opportunity to be in as sort of the assistant in the minor hockey with my own kids. And it's so awesome to be around any kid playing the game. And the fact that I can do it at the university level is really, really special. And, I don't, players that play a lot or don't play as much, and fourth line, first line, sixth D, first D, the goalie that just opens the door and smiles and never gets to get in there. I mean, I love all my players, and I think you really get to appreciate it. Coach long enough now to see them now into their 30s and beyond. Some of the guys when I just started coaching are now, have families and they've grown up, and just that opportunity. So I think that my biggest achievement is just probably been able to, look back and see where they're all going at this point. That's been kind of the fun part. So hopefully that continues. That's probably why somebody coaches. It's certainly not for the money, but the family, it's one big family. And I think the hockey family, especially when it's kind of your own, or you're one of the older mentors now, you want to kind of be, you just want that family to keep going and be strong. So that's what I enjoyed.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to watching Liv and T make some new memories with you over the next 4 years down at Yale. I want to get your insight on, because of course I know your division is not playing, but other NCAA divisions are playing, and we have an alumni in Hockey East, and they've done something something pretty interesting with this power index that they've been using to determine where the seeding is, and it actually looks like our alumni is at UConn.
Yep.
And it looks like they've been bumped from 6th to 7th by like 0.07 points. But I wanted to see, if you had an opinion on something like that, what you think it, maybe the benefit or the hindrance of it is, and if it would be something that might end up being applied to the Ivy division next year.
Yeah. You know what? That's a good question. I mean, certainly our division had a lot of impact. Only 4 of the 12 teams are playing. So we're not really at the table anymore to have many of these discussions. We have had a lot of league meetings consistently prior to the season starting, but once the season started, we kind of clipped out of there. We've had the RPI and different indexes. Basically, you're talking about math. So if you like numbers, that's good. Hockey, there's a lot of hockey nerds now that are really living on the analytics, and you can do that all day, but sometimes as coaches, we just listen, get in the playoffs, win your games, take care of business, put pucks to the net. Let's not get inundated with the analytics, but they do play a role in selection and pairings. So I think that it's not going to go away, and they're going to look at it, because if a really tough scenario this season, certain teams haven't had the same number of games. They haven't been able to play the other opponents. So, if you haven't played the upper half with the better records. How are you going to equate that? So they had to break in some math, of course, involved, and that's really how college hockey works. On the guys' side, same as with as many Division I teams, there's a lot of scrutiny that goes on. So I think the numbers are designed to make it clean, and then the math doesn't lie, whatever they put in. So I think our job as coaches and the commissioners of all the conferences is to make sure they get it right. Everybody's informed prior to it starting, and then then again the math doesn't lie. So if that's where you are, that's where you are. And then after that, I know the coaches around after you're upset for a few seconds. You just got to roll in there with your team and say, well, what are we going to do? Worry about it? We can't worry about it. Let's just win the game. Let's just prepare to play whoever we're playing. Let's tackle that task. And I think that's what most of the college coaches would do. And I don't think the players cared. If you ask the players, they may say like, oh, I like that rink better than that rink. So if we're on the road, I hope we go there versus there. They have the Starbucks, which is closer to the rink. And other than that, they don't really care. The players just want to play. And I think at the elite level, they like a challenge. So if you're an underdog and you have to go take on, a giant, that's not a bad way to go. It makes it fun. Look at St. Louis just a couple of years ago. Boom, barely in the playoffs, and they just got it done. And they haven't looked back from really going from nowhere to where it is. So yeah, the numbers are interesting, but that's the way hockey's going. People love numbers now. So we try and break it back down to some simplicity so players don't live in the numbers. You can't play the game if you're living in the numbers. That's
true. I've been sitting here going, I wonder if I could calculate what the expected goals for the Barracudas could be. But that's too much math for me. I just look at it and go, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Well, I know. One last thing from me as well. What's the strength of the team looking like for the fall?
I mean, we're pretty optimistic. I won't go into too many details. If you do your job and every recruiting year has an opportunity placed with it. So I think more than anything, I think our players and any of the teams that just haven't had a chance to play, they're going to come back hungry. They're really going to want to go. And your group, same situation. Players are going to want to play some games and get going. So we're certainly optimistic. The year finished, tough, but great for us when we did finish the season. And we want to build some momentum, but it'll be a fun. We got a great conference, and I think every opponent's going to be, excited to get back to it. So we're certainly optimistic, but we know that every opponent's going to be a challenge. So we're excited for it.
Well, I know we'll be tuning in to cheer you on and support our girls here that are going off to play with you next in autumn. So Mark, appreciate the time. We really do. Thank you very much. Liv, T, do you have anything else to say to your future coach?
Oh, they're good. They're quiet.
Yeah, no, they've got it all done. So
I'm sure. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. It's a pretty cool honor to come on and chat with you guys, and thanks for your time.
Well, thank you, Mark. We appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Coach Boulding.
You bet, guys. See you later. Take care. Thanks.
Well, that was fun. What was that? How did you think that was? Chatting with your future coach.
Makes me excited to go next year. Yeah. Especially getting to know him a bit better and how his hockey journey has come from start to now. Just makes it even more exciting.
Yeah, I'm more excited. Yeah, kind of what Muhn said, it kind of opened me up to kind of know what to expect when going in and kind of what Coach Boulding is looking for when me and Muhn go in. So yeah, I'm definitely very excited for the season.
Well, and I know we had a couple other questions that he actually ended up answering in his answers, which was great. The one about the dead period, which I thought was really interesting, how he's seeing it as a positive, to almost give the younger players an extra bit of time. And of course we have some, players that are going to be approaching that in the coming months. So for him to see that as a positive, I'm interested to see how that resonates across the NCAA and how that kind of changes how other colleges and universities as well are recruiting. But I mean, I'm very excited now. I'm going to tune in, of course, when that's going on. So again, thank you to Mark and for joining us, giving up his time. We really appreciate it. And there's a couple of things we can actually cover. I did mention it in the interview about UConn, which of course is where Tia Chan is. And like I said, they finished 6th, but dropped to 7th because of 0.07 math. But they're going to end up playing the worst team in the league for, I guess, kind of like a wild card to see who gets in. That's what they do. 7 plays 10 and 8 plays 9. And so they'll be playing Merrimack, who has had a bit of a rough season. They've only got 13 goals for in total. But from that, I think that's a pretty winnable game for UConn. I'll be interested to see who starts because it's single game knockout. And both Yale and Tia have had pretty decent seasons. So I'll be interested to see who starts against Merrimack. They did win both their games as well when they played Merrimack in the season. But UConn has kind of been up and down, haven't they?
Yeah, I know Tia Chan, like she came out good for her first year, obviously. Like her stats were phenomenal. She did amazing. So I'd love to see her play, but that honestly just comes down to the coaches and what they think is the best decision for them. But yeah, she had a great season, and I'm looking forward to watching her in the playoffs.
Yeah, me too. She's been playing great lately, but like T said, at the end of the day, it comes down to who the coach wants in net, and he might be thinking like who he wants in net for the next game even. So,
well, and I know I've said it'll be interesting, but it will be because they haven't played since the 12th. They've had a bunch of games postponed in there, and that, well, specifically Tia hasn't played since the 12th. So I don't think either goaltender is necessarily, like coming in hot, but Tia is coming off a shutout win, 1-0. But I mean, you're right, T. Her stats: 1.43 goals against average, 948 save percentage in 9 games. Her first 9 games in the NCAA. What I will say, and what I've said it before, is that UConn has to tighten up on defense if they want to kind of make a push deeper. Because their goaltenders are giving them opportunities to win, but they're kind of coughing up the puck in the defensive zone a little too much. And it's those bad turnovers that have hurt them in certain games, particularly in games that have been close. I referenced Vermont back in January. They were up in that game and then they lost in overtime. So if they can tighten up on D, then they should be okay. Now, on the other side, the Aurora Spartans, that's where our D3 goaltender, Tia Gluby, is. She hasn't played since she's been pulled. And Aurora had a back-to-back this weekend against a weaker team, mind you. So they got 2 wins off it, 2 shutouts, both for the other goaltender who played back-to-back. And I'm a little confused as to why they didn't give Tia the opportunity to get her confidence back.
Yeah, I know. Especially going in for like your first year, like you're new player, you kind of have to prove that you're able to play. But I think Tia just is going through maybe a rough patch, and I know everyone will. I've been through them before, and I'm sure everyone else has, and mistakes are inevitable. Like, they're going to happen. A bad game's going to happen, but I think Tia just needs to be ready. If her coaches ask her to go in net, she just needs to be ready that she can redeem herself again and prove that she has her confidence back and that she's all ready to go. But yeah, mistakes happen. You just have to kind of learn from them and hope they don't happen again.
Yeah. I think Tia's still finding her groove. She's kind of finding where she fits in on the team and like where her D are going, like kind of this new systems that are being put into play. I know it's a few months in, but it takes a while to adapt to those things. The only thing that I could think of is that the coach wants to keep their goalie in to like keep her on a hot streak, I guess, and just keep her rolling.
Yeah, I agree with what Muhn said there for the hot streak. Yeah, like if you have a goalie who's playing good and they have that kind of rhythm going to them, if I was a coach, like I wouldn't want to interrupt that or anything. But yeah, her coach would definitely give her the opportunity to kind of redeem herself at one point. But it all comes down to the coach's decision in the end.
I guess we'll see. I'm not too sure. I haven't checked their schedule. I'm not too sure who's coming up next, but I know there's a lot of freshmen on this team. So that's another thing. Tia included in that, of course. So they played Lake Forest College 3 times, starting later on, and that'll be on Friday, Sunday. So we'll be recording episode 3 while that game is going on, I believe. But I'm not too sure how strong Lake Forest is, so I wouldn't be surprised if Tia gets in for at least one of those games, because there's 3 games in 6 days against the same team. You know, you don't want to have them see the same people every time. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how things carry on for Tia, but she's got a few days to recuperate as well. And of course, actually back to UConn, that game against Merrimack will be on Wednesday evening. So keep an eye out for that as well. I want to wrap up with a couple of points. First of all, we wanted to discuss the Leafs because we had kind of gross NHL news to start, and then something just kind of funny. And now let's talk about some games going on in the NHL, especially the Maple Leafs. And I know T, you wanted to dissect the collapse that occurred on Monday.
Yeah, I was watching with my dad, and I was just kind of like, the game's not over until it's over. Like, I just think the Leafs had the mentality that they were gonna win, but like,
See, that's what Ottawa said.
Yeah, like you're up 5-1. Like you're like, yeah, you're fine. Like it's 4 goals you have to get to tie the game. Like, but yeah, the game's never over until it's really over. So I think they just kind of it was definitely embarrassing for them. Like they fell apart, but yeah, they definitely came back on Wednesday and won, and then Thursday again, and then yesterday they won their game too. So yeah, I think they just had a bad game on Monday and they were doing good, but they kind of fell apart in the end. But yeah, they came back, and
especially the like 5 goals in a row.
Yeah, especially, yeah, like it wasn't even like in between or anything. Like, yeah, it wasn't very fun to watch that.
Yeah. But then last night's win against Montreal was
a
game.
Well, that was a fun game as a whole, and
yeah, that was.
I'll come back to that in a second, but I want to say, I mean, I'm a little concerned about John Tavares. I don't know about you two, but he got a goal on Thursday, I believe, in the 3rd game against Ottawa, but he's not really scoring a whole lot. He's been getting assists, so he's been getting points on the board, but for me, his puck control has been brutal, and especially in that 5-1 game, because he's directly responsible for the 5-2 goal. And that's what started the comeback. And I mean, I don't know what he was thinking, where he's got the puck at the hash marks on the boards, and then, I don't know, sees Marner streaking up the middle, I guess, and goes, oh, I'm going to hit him with a pass in the high slot with 2 Senators stood right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like he missed the puck. Like you could see the lane where Marner was going.
Yeah.
And if he hit it right and like made the saucer pass, it could have been like a breakaway or something. But it's like he missed the bottom of the puck or topped it or something and just went the wrong way.
Yeah.
Well, I also wonder if they were getting ahead of themselves. They were scoring so
Yeah.
much that they were like, oh yeah, we'll get another one right here.
Yeah. That's what happens too. Like I know when we play sometimes like you'll be up and you'll be like, oh, let's try like something cool, like something to kind of switch it up, you know? But yeah, something like that could definitely go the wrong way. But
Score a
Sometimes
goal between your legs.
yeah, like you just kind of want to make it fun at that point. But yeah, in any hockey game, it's not over until it's over.
We
so.
practiced those a bit later this morning too. A bunch
Yeah.
They weren't very good.
Some of them weren't. I'll
Yeah.
give credit to
Leah's was
Hayden.
pretty good.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say we'll give credit to Hayden.
Yeah.
But
Leah's wasn't bad either.
that's true. She was just scared of trying it.
Yeah, I'm too afraid to try those too.
I should have got my stick. I had practiced that kind of stuff.
See, I can see you like hitting your foot or getting your stick caught or something.
Me?
Yeah. I feel like
Tijana.
I'd be too clumsy and I just mess it up or something.
Me or T?
T.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I feel like y'all think I'm just terrible at hockey. Don't get me wrong. I did only play house league, so I'm not,
You know what? You still played, so that's good.
Okay.
yeah. Anyways, enough about my illustrious hockey career. Matthews is unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got another 2 goals last night. Almost had the third. He tried for it. There's a GIF online of him trying for it, him sitting at the hash marks, and then he just bends over because I think it got tipped away or something.
Yeah.
He's on pace for 50 and 50 now.
Yeah.
50 goals in 50 games. Yeah.
I saw on Twitter something that he was the first NHL player to have 18 goals in the first 18 games in 15 years. So I thought that was pretty good. Like he's been playing awesome. He's been getting pucks in the net. He's been getting them in the net, which is good to see, but just has to keep it up now. He's kind of on a roll and can't let that slide now.
And I feel like his overall game's kind of changed this year. He's becoming a more rounded player. Like you can see him back checking, helping out in the defensive zone, which in the past couple of years you didn't really see.
Well, he looks like he's more confident on
Yeah.
both sides of the game, right? I mean, he's throwing hits that you didn't see. He took a hit to make a play so that Marner could score in last night's game, right? There's just elements of his game that have been elevated that we haven't really seen before, right? And I mean,
the chemistry between him and Marner is just crazy.
I was just gonna say that too. How do you feel like chemistry plays in on defense? Because I know like Liv, last year you played mostly with like Reese, right? So you're gonna have a new partner, sort of. But then like Tijana, you played a lot with, I want to say Jamie
Quinn.
and Quinn. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Jamie was with me for a bit of last season.
Okay. So what about chemistry on defense then? How do the two of you feel that kind of circulates into making plays?
There's a lot of trust that goes into being D, especially like at the point you have to trust that the other person's going to be there to cover you if you make a mistake, or like it's going to jump into the slot so you can make the pass there. You kind of have to be able to almost read each other's minds to know where you're going. And like T and I played a bit together last year, and I think we definitely clicked. Like we were able to make plays if one person jumped up and you just knew the other person was going to cover you. So there was a ton of trust, and that's one of the biggest parts of defense I find. And it just kind of makes or breaks a pair.
Yeah, I feel like me and Muhn, like if anyone just threw us out on the ice, like we kind of be able to figure out what each other, I kind of know how Muhn plays. Like I know how she is, so I know how to kind of help her out and kind of be her other eyes in that sense. But yeah, me and Muhn definitely have chemistry's like huge, and me and Muhn definitely have that like connection when we play together. But we didn't really get the chance to play a lot last year together. But yeah, it just kind of depends how like you know your partner, and then your partner knows you too. So it kind of just takes practice, but yeah, definitely trust. You have to trust your player, your partner, and yeah, you just have to kind of know what they're doing at all times. But yeah, it definitely plays a big role in defense.
But like, no matter the chemistry, like if T and I were to go back to playing together now, the first game would definitely be rough.
Yeah.
Together for such a long time. And even though we know that chemistry's there, we kind of have to reignite the spark that started it all.
Yeah. Like I played with Quinn a lot last year, and it takes practice with any person you're playing with. But yeah, me and Quinn definitely have a connection. Like I know I know how she plays. She knows how I play. So yeah, it definitely takes practice to kind of gain that connection and that trust on the blue line.
Well, and it's almost like there's a reliance almost on your own defensive awareness, but also your partners, right?
Yeah.
And then I would classify the two of you as offensive defenders. I don't know how you feel, but I mean, Quinn, I would say, is a bit more of a defensive minded defender.
Yeah.
Right. So that, knowing that Quinn is always going to be there to cover you, gives you a little bit more freedom as well to jump up into play. And, I mean, we've seen you in front of the net before, just because you're so tall, you make a great screen. Right.
Yeah.
So there's all those other factors that I'm sure go into it as well. I mean, I played defense myself, so I understand everything that you're talking about as well. We'll save the other 2 points that we had on the Leafs for another time, perhaps, because and I know I'm throwing this at you, but you may or may not have known, but today was the day in 2002 that Team Canada, the women's national team, won their first Olympic gold medal in Salt Lake City, 2002. I remember it vaguely, but I do remember it. I was around. I know neither of you were, but what does that moment hold in significance, not only for you personally, but maybe do you think women's hockey as a whole?
I think it kind of helped prove that like women's hockey could compete at like an Olympic level, and that even Canada like had a good program, and that we could continue to build that program based off that win. And I know like a ton of other programs have opened up since then, and many more young girls have started joining hockey and started playing. And I think a lot of it's based on seeing role models for themselves and seeing people that they can look up to or whose positions they could be in one day.
Yeah, I agree with Muhn on that one. Like it set the mindset that women's hockey is like, it's serious, and that they won a championship, and that, yeah, like girls younger should look up to them and know that, okay, one day that could be them playing. But yeah, it definitely set a mindset knowing that Canada has a great program and that they're capable of competing at that level.
Well, yeah. And I mean, for me, it was, I remember watching it, and then, you reflect on some of the names that were there: Haley Wickenheiser, Jana Hefford, Cassie Campbell. These are all icons in hockey now. I mean, Haley does brilliant work, not only with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but in the medical world. Jana Hefford is the head of the PWHPA and is kind of spearheading the fight for a league, right? And then Cassie Campbell is a staple on Hockey Night in Canada now, and the Sportsnet broadcast. I think she's one of the better color commentators there are now, to be blunt. She's definitely evolved from, when she started. But there's a clip of they recently celebrated Matt Sundin's 500th point, I believe, or 1,000th point, or something like that. It was a big number because Sundin played forever. But it was, this big shot against Mika Kiprasov, and Bob Cole's all excited about it, and it was an overtime win. And then Cassie Campbell came on to do the color commentary of it, and I went, "Oh wow!" I had almost forgot that that's how long Cassie's been at it, and so she's a veteran now, and it's awesome to see. And so I just wanted to celebrate that. 19 years ago, our women's Olympic team won the gold medal, Salt Lake City, 2002, and that was a phenomenal year for Olympians as a whole in Canada. But
the other thing that I realized, this just going back to like the defense chemistry thing, but
jumping back, that's cool.
yeah, well, I just kind of realized it. if you're not really friends off the ice, it's much harder to be D partners. Like, I know T and Quinn are great friends. I've been playing a lot with Jamie in the past couple of years, and we're great friends. And so it just makes it a lot easier to connect with them. And then going back to Matthews and Marner, they seem like besties.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you have to build that chemistry on ice, but then off ice as well, because it's hard to because when you're off ice, like we're all friends off ice, and then when we bring it on ice, it just makes it a lot more fun, and it just makes it a lot more easier and kind of feels more natural, because if you're not friends off ice and then you go on ice, it might feel a little forced, that kind of chemistry. But that was definitely a good point. Yeah.
So the thing about House League, I didn't really make many friends with my teammates.
Yeah.
It was more like, oh my God, you really can't take a face off? Okay, I guess I'll do it. My God. Anyways, well, I think that concludes it. Again, thank you to Mark for joining us today. Girls, thank you. I'll let, I'm sure you're warmed up by now. I was going to say, I'll let you go warm up, but I've had a cup of tea. Why don't you go have a hot chocolate or something for today? Thank you very much for listening. Cuda Chronicles episode 2. Keep an eye out for future social media posts / events, because like I said, we did our awesome outdoor rink filming today, so that'll be going into various things. Rise of the Cuda episode 6 will be coming out in the near future. We're getting started on that, so that'll be fun. Again, focusing on our rookies, our new players joining us. And we have a jersey contest. I totally forgot to mention it in the first episode, but we have a jersey contest. We want an alternate jersey for next season, or possibly even sooner, depending on if we can get some games going on. We'll see. But the contest continues right up until the end of February. Throw us an entry. We'd love to see the creativity that our association and beyond has, whether you're a novice House League player or you're on the Junior Cudas currently. I know, I encourage all of you to do some designs. I know Morgan's been having some fun. So, but thanks, girls. We'll chat again soon on Cuda Chronicles. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Cuda Chronicles. You can follow the Burlington Junior Barracudas on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Junior Cudas. That's at JRCUDAS. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and keep updated on future episodes of Cuda Chronicles and Rise of the Cuda. We'll see you right here next Sunday on Cuda Chronicles.